intimidating to go to a new culture. It's exciting because each class brings something new, and it's really enriching to be there.
Eye-opening, enlightening, and fascinating.
I heard that it is much difficult to teach in Australian schools, but the school which I went, where I went, I didn't feel much difficulty because the main reason is from the encouragement from my supervising teachers as well as from the students itself.
Challenging, was enlightening, and it was really worthwhile. So it's kind of my sort of three how I'd sum it up. It provided for me perspective and scope on a global level that was different to anything I got here teaching in Australia, and probably anything I ever will get here teaching in Australia.
Well, teaching in Canada, because I'm Canadian, way easier because we all have the same cultural background. So I can make a comment about ice and snow and everyone's right there and like, ah, right? Whereas in Australian schools, you say the same thing, it's not the same reaction at all. So you really, like, all of your jokes that you have that work really well don't work anymore because it's such a different climate. And like, just what everyone brings to the back, like their background information is so different. That being said, it's also really cool to try and learn from them and be like, oh, all right, you do it this way here. Well, you know, I'm Canadian, that's how we did it back home. You always got that little trump card in the background, just to make sure that I'm not stupid. This is just how we do it.
The one thing I noticed about the curriculum, so the curriculum we were following here in India, and the same curriculum we followed in Abu Dhabi. So there we have three curriculums. One is the national curriculum and the state curriculum. So the school can take any one curriculum and should follow it. But here what I found from my knowledge is that the school is making a curriculum based on the instruction given by the QSA. So the thing what I found that when the schools are making curriculum, different schools will have the different content of teaching, which will make students of having different knowledge. They are not getting the basic knowledge. Up to the schools, all should have some basic knowledge of physics. When I talk about the physics, all students should have some basic knowledge of physics. So when the school chooses the curriculum, they have the right to miss some topic and teach. So the reason what I told when I went for the teaching trial, that school eliminated some two major topics of physics. They are not teaching the two topics in their curriculum.
Well, similarities, teaching everywhere is a relational act. You know the kids, you know your content and your skills that you've got to sort of get across, and it's a matter of matching all three. So, you know, you go, well, these kids need help in this area. I can develop these kids further in this area. It is very much, in every country I've taught in, still about that relationship of teacher and student. That being said, differences, ethnocentric teaching is far more common in the UK and South Korea than it was, and it has been here in Australia. To give an example, in the UK I taught World War II history, and it was all about the Blitz, London, London, London. The rest of the world was kind of affected by World War II, but it was such an ethnocentric approach that it didn't allow for a perspective, which is very different to Australia, where we have a really broad view of the world. So that for me was the difference, and that's just obviously one example of many.
The most striking differences in Japan was the attitude they had to bullying. So I can remember being in a class, and it was lunchtime actually, having lunch in the class, and the teacher was there and I was there, all the kids were eating. And the class bully, this notorious guy, basically got someone up against the wall and he had his hand up like this over his shoulder and he's eyeballing him and sort of hitting him and abusing him. And I said to the teacher, you know, aren't you going to do anything? And the teacher said, oh no, it'll build up self-respect, this will really help him, let's let it go. And I just thought that was pathetic.
For me, I mean, I'm obviously a white Australian. Like many Australians, I have a European heritage, Hungarian, Romanian, English. but I think for me it was coming from a multicultural society here in Australia that enabled me to kind of mix and mingle and just go, okay, it's different, but I accept that, which was a fantastic thing, really. So, yeah.
Well, it did in the situation I was in, because I was an English teacher. They were interested in learning about my culture, so it was directly relevant.
No, it is actually, it is not depends upon the culture, it is depends upon our own passion of teaching. If we have a passion to teach and to deal with the different type of students, we can teach in different culture. If we have a good background.
I'd say yes, just because you've got to know where you come from before you go somewhere else. And so knowing, like, I can do this in my own country, let's see if I can do it somewhere else. And between Canada and Australia, the differences are just really subtle. They're not outstanding, like different language, different culture. It's still a British colony, so they're similar, but not so similar.
What I would say to teachers is, when you've finished here, remember that you've got a portable career and that you can travel to other countries. You could go to Dubai or Cairo or Japan and teach. You don't have to be on the English teaching merry-go-round. You can teach a proper subject.
Awareness, really. I think being aware of what you bring to the classroom and what your students bring to the classroom. Being aware that over 100 million people work and live in a country not of their own birth. So you are going to come across people who are not from this area. Making connections on a global level as well. Teaching kids to sort of, it's a dodgy phrase, but to think locally but act globally, or whichever way around it goes, I can never remember. But it's that kind of idea, where you have your own life, but you are connected to everything else behind and beyond that.
Do it! It's so much fun! You learn so much more about who you are, where you came from, especially because you've got that perspective, and you get to go to a new place and see what that's like.